Okay, so we are recording, and then Tyler's still up, helping me do our second recording, and he's gonna show me back how to share my screen and add the PowerPoint back in. Okay, and so for those of you who maybe were live on the call, it didn't get recorded correctly, so he and I, Angela's helping me out, so thank you so much, Angela, for coming on. And we're gonna just re-record this for the people who couldn't make it on. So that way you guys can get this awesome training too. So Angela, you don't have to mute yourself because it's just you and I. But this is class number 3, which is host coaching. And I just want to throw out a huge congratulations to all of you who have made it this far, because that's something you should be very proud of and give yourself a pat on the back, because you are halfway done. The finish line for the 6 weeks to directorship is halfway there. So no turning back now. Stick with it, see it to the end, and give yourself a big pat on the back for making it this far. And how does it feel? Angela, this is not your first time on one of these 6 weeks. So how does it feel when you make it to the halfway mark?
Woo, we're cooking now. You're learning and you're seeing some growth, and it's starting to make sense.
Awesome. And I told everyone that I'm really excited to be in charge of class 3 because I am very passionate about host coaching. Angela's on my team, so she knows that. So I'm just excited to teach this to all of you guys, because this will really help you grow your business. And if there's one area that you need to put focus on, it should be your host coaching. So, okay. For all the calls, a few courtesy rules. Mute yourself. You guys are going to get the bonus with this particular one, that there won't be any background distractions. We won't have people jump in and ask questions, but Angela's going to play along so that you guys can get the interaction as well. And what have you accomplished in the first 2+ weeks of this program? You are now a pro at prospecting and bookings at your shows. So if you did your homework, which we're going to assume you all did, you have been practicing booking lines for your group and hello, and your simple and group selling, and your confident close. And that's how you're going to grow your calendar. If you have had time to observe a strong seller's party, that can really help you see where your party can improve. And if you can't do that, or you don't live near anyone, think about joining in a strong virtual sellers party, because that's something you can do anywhere. And you can learn a lot just by watching somebody else's party. So if you haven't done it already, make a point to do that this week. Make 15 contacts a week outside of the party, no matter what. Use a power hour and focus on bookings and recruitings. So you may already know what that is, you may not, but it's talking about taking 15 minutes in pockets of 15 minutes, building up to an hour a day, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, and working your business in pockets of time. Some of that's going to be making contacts, some of it's going to be getting bookings, some of it's going to be recruiting, and some of it's actually going to be host coaching. So make sure you have your time to work your business on your calendar. Did your homework and listen to the Make It a Full Calendar, which was Julie Gizzi and Julie Ritter and Karen Pollock. So Angela, have you listened to that? And it's okay if you haven't. I know you're playing along.
Actually, I believe I've listened to it a while ago, but not this
That's
moment.
fine. To give us anything, that would be a tip from that. So I know there was a Karen on our original call that didn't get recorded, and she just said it was a great call with a lot of tips. There wasn't anything specific that stood out to her, but she said, she's actually listened to it twice. So that's, the trainings are there and they're very good. And I listen to a training every single morning when I walk. I know Angela's been listening to trainings in the afternoon while she walks or exercises. And it's just, you can listen to a training multiple times and learn something new each time. So don't think, oh, I already did that, I'm not going to do it again, because the trainings are there for us and they're really good. Did anyone do the extra credit for it from Anne, Olivia, and Shalyn? And I know on our original call, nobody was able to unmute themselves and say that they did. But if you did, give yourself a double pat on the back for going above and beyond. And then continue giving out 10 minis or recipe cards a week until your calendar is booked. And I know, again, we have muted people anyway, but one of the girls on our team has completely changed her schedule to make a point of doing this. So your calendar is not going to be full if it's not already full unless you do something different than what you're already doing. And what she's been doing is actually leaving on her lunch break, which is not her normal routine, and going out and about and getting contacts while she is on her lunch break. So going out to eat and talking to the server, going to Starbucks and talking to your barista. There's lots of contacts that can be made when you're intentional about it. So our team has been going back and forth about a challenge to get the most contacts out and about. So you want to keep doing that. That's not something you stop doing just because you're not in this program. Okay, so let's get started. Overcoming objections. Of course, as you were booking parties this past week, you're bound to run into objections. So please share how you utilized what you learned about overcoming objections. Some examples of what we talked about last week include not knowing enough people, they don't want to pressure their friends to buy, don't have enough time, the house is too small, they just went to a party, or they would rather have a party next season. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through a few of those. And then Angela can jump in if she has some tips she wants to add, because we both do live shows and virtual shows, so she might be able to throw some other ones out there. So not knowing enough people. That's one that is pretty common. They don't want to have a party because they don't know enough people. And what I tell them is I have parties where there's a lot of people and parties that are less people. Usually when there's less people, you get more outside orders. And when there's more people, you get less outside orders. So in the end, they all average out to great parties. So you might know few people around where you live, but you may have friends and family that are long distance and they can still participate and make it a great show. Or they may want to go the route of a virtual party, and that might be a better fit for them, so it doesn't have to be a live show. They don't want to pressure their friends to buy. And that's something that they actually brought up at my party today that I just finished. So she said, you haven't tried to pressure us to buy anything. And the products really sell themselves. So if you're not pressuring them at the current party, I don't think they're going to be concerned about it when they're booking with you. So if they're having a lot of fun, that's a good thing. You want to make sure people are having fun at your parties. And I told them, I don't pressure you. I tell you what's made my products, what products have made my life easier and why. And if you feel like it would help you, then those are the products you're going to get. But the products sell themselves. We don't have to pressure people or twist their arm to buy stuff. They don't have enough time. And that's where host coaching really becomes important, because your host really only need a couple hours the day of the party to do the show, as long as you're host coaching them well and telling them what to do so they don't feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to figure it out. Their house is too small. That actually came up at my party today too. So it's a real concern. And she said, my kitchen's not like this. My house isn't this big. And I said, that's okay. Mine's not either. But what I can do, she said, I think we could squeeze people into the kitchen for a couple of minutes. And I said, that's actually what I do. We'll hang out in your living room or whatever space you have. And then I'm just going to tell people, hey, quick field trip to the kitchen. I'll show them the grill pan and we'll head back to your living room. She said, okay. And she booked the party. They just went to a party. When people have a big wish list, they leave with just as much on their wish list as what they had, what they bought probably. So I just tell them, is there anything still on your wish list? And they always say yes. And I said, so does everybody else here. So when you have the next party, you actually do really well because your friends already know that they want something else. And then I would rather party next season. And if you don't necessarily try to talk them into a current show, if there's a reason, maybe they have a wedding or a baby being born or something, they may not want to do it right now. Just make sure you have a good system to follow up with your future leads, which I believe we talked about last week, so that they don't slip through the cracks and you forget to follow up with them. So Angela, have you had any of these objections or any other ones that you could share that?
I would say where it says, I would rather party next season, I think that it's okay to say, you know what, I understand you might want a cooking party next season, but this is a great time of year to do an easy catalog party also. And if you want to help, we'll go ahead and schedule your cooking party for next season. But if you have this catalog in your hand and you go to work and you go to your kids' whatever game, and a few people say they want a couple of things, let's just get a couple $100 together now, and then you'll still be able to do your cooking party next season.
Love it. Thank you.
So the other objection that I sometimes have heard is, well, I don't know how to invite. Like, I don't know who or how to invite. And that's when you would just say, oh my goodness, that's what I'm here for.
Yes.
That's my job, to help you with that part. Are you ready to brainstorm?
Yes. Awesome. Love it. And so, yeah, the more you host coach, the more at ease they will feel about their party. Okay. The 4 F's are food, fun, friends, and free. So people will book for one of those 4 reasons. So for the food, you want to make sure you're talking about some fun, exciting recipes like fajitas and margaritas, wine, cheese, and chocolate, brunch parties. Angela's doing a barbecue chicken slider party with chocolate, and that's a lot of fun too. The fun, make sure everybody's having fun at the party. When they have fun with you, they'll want to book with you. Friends. Some people book to help their friends out. So make sure they know when they're booking a party that night, they're helping that host. So Shirley was my host tonight. You know, they'll book to help her because she gets a half price item at the party. So make sure you tell everybody that. And then the free. You know, when they want a rock crock and a grill pan and some knives and it's not in their budget to order it all, they'll book a party so they can get some free stuff. What will happen by the end of the 4th month if you only add 1 booking at every party? So you may have already seen this concept, you may not have, but if you're only booking, you want to book 2 to 3 shows from every show that you do. And when you do that, you always have a full calendar and future business. If you're only adding 1 booking per party, you're actually working yourself out of business, because when people cancel and reschedule, by the 4th month, you'll have 0 shows left on your calendar. So it makes a really big difference to make sure you're consistently getting bookings. And you might think, well, I'm not getting bookings, so what do I do? We already talked about the out and about contacts, but the other place you're going to help increase your bookings is actually your host coaching. So that's why this call is really important. It will help you have better host coaching. Okay. Anything you want to add there, Angela?
Nope, that's about it.
Okay. Any questions for me? Think we got that covered. So why do you host coach? Host coaching is where you earn your paycheck, and the party is where you pick it up. So if there's one area you put your time and energy in, it's actually creating that relationship with your host before the party. It's too late if you show up at the party and you haven't host coached. So effective host coaching gets the results you really want to strive for. Sales, bookings, and recruit leads come from your parties. So why not make the party bigger so your business is more successful? Great host coaching leads to consistent business and referrals. So if, when I'm doing everything and I'm on the ball and I'm host coaching and working with my host, when I walk into that party, it's a very, it's a good feeling. Everybody's excited and it turns into a great party. If I've ever dropped the ball and I haven't communicated well with my host, it's a completely different feeling walking in, and you don't have that relationship and that excitement with your host. So it makes a huge difference with that relationship. So Angela, have you ever had that happen?
Yes, both ways.
Completely different when you do your job successfully. So sometimes, I know when I was new, one of my concerns is I might be bothering them, or they're too busy to talk to me, or, whatever that my concern was. But Pamper Chef actually does surveys with your hostesses. And the number 1 complaint that our hostess put on those surveys is they don't hear from us enough. So if you've ever worried about contacting them too much, you're not, I promise. They want to hear from you, regardless of whether you're new or very experienced. You are the expert of this party, and they want you to take the reins and tell them how to be successful. No one books a party with the goal of it not being successful.
The only thing I might add on that is that sometimes if you are worried, say it's a Facebook party, that just because you're communicating with them, maybe you message them more than you would pick up the phone. I still phone call every single one for the initial phone call, or the first one, but you may be messaging them more in private message.
Yep. And we'll talk about that too. So yeah, so I totally agree. It doesn't all have to be actually talking to them on the phone, but you just want to make sure that you're staying excited and keeping in touch with them. So what do you do immediately upon booking all parties? And it's not the happy dance, though you can do the happy dance, but you want to make sure you have a system in place to make sure the show holds and that it's successful for both you and your host. So you're going to make at least 3 contacts with every host, maybe more, and you always want to be excited. Your excitement will keep your host excited and engaged about the party. So you're going to ask your new host what they loved about the party they booked from. So what I did is there's a lot of resources, and you want to have a good system in place. And you may not have seen what Pampered Chef's done recently. So they've actually just recently redone this Hosting 101. This is available on PC University. And you can use this as your system to stay on track with your host. So you can actually use it as a checklist. And if you're working on your host coaching, I highly encourage you to print one for every single party you do and actually use it as a checklist until this becomes your norm. So it's going to talk about your first contact, your second contact, your third contact. So regardless of the system that you do, you use, make sure that you have a system in place. So I do like to do my very first contact as a phone call. And I strongly encourage that. I train our entire team. Like Angela said, that's what she does for her success. And we actually do that whether it's a live show or a virtual show. You really build a strong relationship with your host, and it only takes about 10 to 15 minutes of your time. That's where you find that you get to know your host really well, and they get to know you really well and know that your business is important and that you're cheering for them to have a successful party. And if that's something you absolutely can't do or won't do, another option is host coaching videos. So I did share at the end of our last call that I've been playing with that this month, and I will share them on our event page. So once we get this re-recorded, I'm going to get those shared as well. Okay, so I usually set up the call by texting them and putting them on my calendar and asking them to have a catalog handy if at all possible. And also telling them, great, I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow at 10:15. And I'm excited to hear what's on your wish list. So hopefully they've already thought about that wish list a little bit before we get on the phone. So so the first thing I do is say, oh my gosh, I'm really excited about your party. And I find my hosts are usually excited about one of 3 things. Sometimes it's the food and trying a new fun recipe. Sometimes it's having friends over and just the party itself. And sometimes it's actually the free product. So what are you most excited about? So Angela, what do you think your hosts are most excited about in general?
Honestly, I used to always think it was just the free products because that's what I would be excited about. And recently I've been surprised to hear people that were booking say, oh, I want to make this exact same recipe. I love it. And I couldn't pay attention to every detail last time. Yes. So can we do it again?
Nice. And that makes life easy.
Yeah.
So usually my hosts, when I ask them that, they tell me either all of the above, which is great, or sometimes they will go straight to the free because sometimes that is their primary goal. So then I say, great. So tell me about your wish list. What are the top 10 to 15 items on your wish list? And I actually do write these down because I want to know what my hosts are working on with their party. If they have not worked on the wish list and they're like, oh, I've been so busy, I'll be like, great, do you have your catalog handy? Let's go ahead and figure out what's on your wish list. And then I write it down. The reason I want 10 to 15 items is because I want it to be a big wish list. Mm-hmm. We don't want just 2 to 3 items. Sometimes hosts don't allow themselves to dream big and think of some of those big things. So we want to help and encourage that. So what I'm looking for is small things are fine, but I want to see several big things. I want to see stoneware and cookware and grill pans and rock crocks and knives. So if they don't have that on their wish list, I will ask them, are you interested in that? Have you ever seen it? Maybe they didn't go to a party and they just booked a party. And so they don't know anything about it. And then that lets me know, that a lot of these people maybe don't know what some of our top selling products are. Okay.
I have another tip on that. If you're host coaching and the host themselves, whether it be a guy or a girl, does not give you very many big items, you can say, has your spouse had a chance to look at the catalog also? Because I was recently surprised that the guy's wish list in this couple was much more expensive than the woman's.
Very good tip. Oh, very good. And think about it. I do a lot of shows where the wives come in and they say, I don't even know why I'm here. My husband does all the cooking. Mm-hmm. So, and I tell them you should have brought them. But sometimes guys just aren't wanting to come. And if they do, that's awesome. But if they're weighing in on the wish list, that's a really good thing. So that's a great tip. Okay. And then you want to talk about the host plan. Even if they've had a party before or they've hosted with me many, many times, it's still important because that's your job to explain it to them. And then I think this slide's a little messed up, so we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, so what does that look like? This is going to be call one, or if you're doing a video, you're going to have this information in the video. So talk about the host plan. So I'll just say, hey, go ahead and flip your catalog over to the back, and I'm going to tell you how our host program works. They're already excited about their wish list, so now we got to show them how they're going to get their wish list. And when you look at the back of the catalog, it looks just like this. And I'll say, so my average show is an $800 show, and that takes about 10 to 12 orders to get there. So our goal is to have 10 to 12 people at your party. And that's going to give you $165 for free and 4 half-price items. So how does that sound? And I'll tie it back into something like they're on their wish list, like a Rock Crock. You also get a discount off of anything else you ordered. So you're not going to pay full price for anything at all. Okay? And that's usually exciting, and they're a little bit excited. Then I say most of my hosts actually shoot for that $1,000 level. And what I found is it's not that much more work, and you get a lot more for free. So it's actually about 15 to 18 orders to hit a $1,000 show. And you can do that by getting that 10 to 12 people at your party and getting 5 to 6 outside orders before the party, because no one will, there's never a date you can pick where everybody will make it. So you want to make sure you get those orders from the people who can't come, and also from people who live too far away. Do not forget about them, because you may have family in Georgia or California and you want to go ahead and include them, but then reach out to them personally and say, hey, I know you can't come to my party, but I just went to a show and I thought you would love the popcorn maker. So here's my link, and we can actually ship straight to your house. So if you're interested, you can place an order. And you actually give your host those word choices, so they're like, oh, okay, I can do that. Okay, and then the tip for growing your show average is to do this host coaching. So you look at where you're at now, and you're always going to host coach at least one level above where you're at right now. So if your average is 700, you're going to say my average show is 800. If your average is at or below the company average, which is 650, say you have a $400 or $500 show average, the way to increase that is by saying an average show with Pampered Chef is $650 or $700. So you're not like right in the middle there. And for that, you're going to get $140 free. Okay, there's a lot of great leaders that are doing these 6 weeks that have $1,000 show average or higher. So they get those averages by good host coaching. So you want to make sure you're giving your host the goal that they can get to $1,000 show. Okay. You can actually find out your average under Consultant's Corner. You can find out how many orders per party you're averaging, so that you know if you're only getting 6 to 8 orders per party, then we want to shoot for that 10 to 12. That will grow your show average. Okay, so for example, an average show is a $1,000 show, and it takes 15 to 18 orders to get there. So our goal is to have 12 to 15 people at your party and 5 or more orders before your party from those who can't come or live far away. We can ship anywhere in the U.S., so don't forget to include those who live long distance, okay? Anything you want to add there, Angela?
Nope.
Since we've worked together, I think we're very similar.
Yes.
So, okay. So some of you may already be doing that. Some of you, that may be a totally new concept, and that's growing your show average and helping your hosts get more for free as well. I find that one of the easy ones to forget is the booking benefit. And we talked at the beginning how important it is to make sure you're getting more than one booking a show. And it actually comes from partnering with your host right now, not later. So what I let them know is for each party booked off of yours, you get to choose one item for half price at their party. So it's a really awesome extra perk that you get. So my goal is to get you at least 3 bookings. And I find I can get 1 to 2 at your party, but there's at least one person who can't make it that will want to book a party. It's going to be the person who is really bummed they can't make it. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't come, and it's my grandma's birthday and I'm really bummed. Or it might be somebody who says, oh my gosh, my wish list is huge and I can't afford it all. Or it could just be that person who says, I have not been to a Pampered Chef party in over 10 years. You want to ask them if they want to have their own party, because I'm not going to get to meet them, so I don't get to talk to them. But when they book a party, it actually gives you that extra half price item, and then they get all the free stuff and they get to see all the products live and in person. So it's a win-win for both of you. So just let me know who wants to book a party that can't make it. Or sometimes I'll even ask my host, has anyone said anything yet? And actually, they sometimes say yes. So if you don't ask, they don't always volunteer that information, and you're missing out on those extra bookings. So Angela, is that something that you want to add anything, or have you been doing that?
To be 100% honest here, I recently just started doing that. And on the host coaching that I did with the his and hers, apparently she said that, oh yeah, you know, there was one of my friends who said that she hasn't been to a party in years, and I know she can't come, but I think she'd like to have one. And I said, do you mind if I go ahead and just jot down her name so you and I both remember? And she said, yeah, it's Tammy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, wow, I should have listened to this advice sooner.
So I found when I started consistently doing this, my bookings actually went up. And the host doesn't realize, first of all, that it benefits her, and also that it's important for you. So it is for both of you. But they don't always remember to volunteer that information. So it's always a no unless you ask and plant that seed now to get those future bookings.
Mm-hmm.
I have actually gotten to the point where they say, yeah, actually it's my friend Tammy, and here's her number, and I'll tell her you're going to call. And you know what I do? I actually contact them before the date of the current host party and say, you know what? I'm sorry you can't make it, but let's go ahead and book your own show. And then you can actually book them in quite a bit closer because you're reaching out to them early. So that works really well as well. Okay.
Good idea.
Talk about how to invite. So now we've got them excited about their wish list, excited about how the host program works and all the fabulous free stuff they're going to get. And now we have to coach them on how to get those people there so they get that 10 to 12 or 12 to 15 at their party and the other orders. So you want to make sure your hosts are inviting multiple ways. I like to send them invitations that are already printed out. So it's actually a mini catalog that has all their party information and the information on how to order online. I usually send about 20 per party, and that works for me. Some people like to mail invitations for their hostesses. So then you're going to ask for a guest list. You want to do that quickly because that helps lock in the date of the party. Once they have guests coming, they're very unlikely to cancel. You get postcards in your kit, so that's these. So you may want to just send them a pack of postcards. But having some hard copy item that your hosts are handing out is very helpful. And remember, your hosts are very busy. So if you can make this easier for them in any way, that is very helpful. So some people like to send labels with the postcards so that the hosts don't have to sit there and handwrite things. And I actually talked about this on the earlier call, Angela. One of the girls on my team, which is Angela, actually likes to fill out one of these postcards and create a really cute textable invite. So it looks very personalized, and that gives the host a way to send out an invitation and not have to handwrite everything. You can use Red Stamp, which is a textable invite, or create a cute picture for each party. And then Facebook. So I tell all of my hosts we want to do one like physical invitation and some type of digital invitation. Facebook is a really good net to include everyone, especially those out-of-town people. It is not a reliable way to get people to your parties. And I tell my hosts that word for word. And we asked on the earlier call, anyone here ever had a party where it was like 12, 15, 22 yeses? You get there and there's 2, 5, or 8 people showing up at your party. People click yes on Facebook and they don't actually write it down. They're not actually committing to coming. That's discouraging for you. It's discouraging for your hostess. So you want to stress to her that Facebook is a fun way to just make a big announcement. We're having a party, but it's not going to get your friends to actually show up at your house. Okay? And that's really important. Your excitement and your enthusiasm is what gets people there. So phone calls, word of mouth, talking about it, being excited, making it sound fun. That's how we're going to get people to the party. Anything you want to add to that, Angela?
Not only do I send out the picture within Pic Collage of the invitation, but I also give the host sample wording, because I know that a lot of my hosts tend to just text people, and it doesn't have a specific person's name in it, so it can just say, hey, and it is very fun and exciting, and I'll customize it if it's a cooking or a Facebook party. And I feel like if I give them the words, they're probably actually going to do it more likely.
Yes. How many times have you wanted to send somebody a message and you spend more time thinking about what to say than just doing it? So the more we can help them, the more likely they are to just get people invited. Okay, so now we've talked about how to invite people. Now this one is maybe something new, maybe not, but I actually started doing this last year after conference. And since then, my recruiting has well over doubled. And we have about anywhere, I haven't tracked it carefully, but anywhere I would say from 55 to 65% of our brand new consultants, possibly higher, actually take the kit credit. So a lot of our new team members on our team are coming from using a kit credit. So my host tonight actually is signing up on Tuesday. She took the kit credit, and her cousin is signing up under her on Wednesday. And then Brittany's brand new on our team. She signed up this past week. She had a party this last Sunday, and she took the kit credit and actually has her sister having a party the next weekend and taking the kit credit. So if you are not talking about this, you are missing out on a huge opportunity with your business. So the way this goes is I say, okay, great. There's actually one more perk with hosting with Pampered Chef that most of my hosts don't even know about. Now, have you ever thought of doing something like this? You're going to get a yes, a no, or a maybe. And if they say, yes, it's great, let me tell you about this perk. If it is a no, then I say, that's okay. There's actually this perk. Let me go ahead and tell you about it just because, in case something changes, or you might know somebody who would really like this perk. And if they say maybe, I will ask a question like, what's holding you back, or what's your concern? And then let me tell you about this perk. That's just for hosts with Pampered Chef. So regardless of whether it's yes, no, or maybe, your answer is almost exactly the same. And I'll say, go ahead and flip to the inside back cover of your catalog. And if you look, there's the 3 different kits on there and all these nice pictures. And I'll say the last perk when you host a party with Pampered Chef is you can actually take up to $50 of the free product that you earn off of any one of these kits. It makes that big kit $199 for over $1,000 worth of product. And then I tie that back into something that was on their wish list. So I'll say you actually get that rock crop, or you get that grow pan, or that pizza stone in that kit. Okay? If you decide you want to do this, I give you all the bookings from your party, and I coach you and help you get off to an awesome start. You can always just try this out and do a few shows, and I'll work with you, and we'll help you get some extra money, get some free products, and have some fun with it. So I would say that whether they say yes, no, or maybe. Now, if they say yes, we're going to kind of plan it and say, okay, make sure you have your calendar ready at your party. So I'm going to book these shows on your calendar, not on mine. If they say maybe, I'll say, you want to know what? Think about it. Talk to whoever you want to talk to, and I'll ask you about it again before your show, because I want you to be able to get off to an awesome start if you decide to do this. If they say no, I'll say, you know what? Just in case something ever changes, now you at least know about this perk, and we could always have another party down the road if you ever decided you wanted to give this a try. Or if you know somebody that this could really be helpful, then you could, that way you know about all the perks, so you can pass that along, okay? And in fact, I almost forgot, but Brittany, who just signed up, her friend who had a party a couple months ago actually brought up her name in our call about how she'd be really good at this. So that referral idea definitely can get you bookings and recruit leads as well. Any questions about that, or comments? Or Angela, have you tried it at all?
I do that, and I do say exclusive. Yeah. There's an exclusive deal that you only can get when you host. Do you want to hear about it?
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Now, so that's the first call, and it's a lot of information. But when you're talking and your hosts are interacting and we're not training you on it, it really only takes 10 to 15 minutes. At the end of that, your host feels like she knows you. She knows that your business is important to you. She knows that you're, cheering her on to have a successful party. So it feels really good once you have that in. From there, I typically let my host know that I'm going to stay in touch with them through private messages on Facebook, sending host coaching videos or texts. And then you can ask them, how do they like to stay in touch? So right before the party, so we've done contact number 1, and I feel like these might be slightly out of order. Contact number 2, so we're going to stay in touch. that's going to be at the midway point, because your hosts are going to start hearing a lot of no's before they start getting a lot of yeses. And that can be discouraging. That can make them kind of panic and contact you and be like, I'm canceling my party. So you want your excitement to stay high and stay in touch with them, even a quick text. So it might be something like, oh my gosh, you got an online order today, way to go. Whatever you are doing, keep doing it. It's working. It might be, how are you doing handing out those invites? Have you gotten them all out yet? And if they say yes, I'll say great. If they say yeah, some of them, I'll say, okay, how many do you have left? I want a specific number. And then I will give them tips on how to get them out to more people, like coworkers, people at church, people at their kids' soccer events, people in their neighborhood. It's amazing how many people don't invite their own neighbors. So it's an easy way to get more people there. Okay, so, and I save these texts and reuse them for every party. So I'm not constantly thinking what to say. You can use the notes section of your phone and just save these texts so you can use them. Okay, so that's just keeping the excitement high. If you have a Facebook event going, consider posting some pictures. And people typically don't comment a lot on those when there's a live show. I usually get a couple comments, but I can't tell you how many times I get to the party and they say, you talked about that on Facebook. So even if they're not commenting, they are watching. And if you're not using Post My Party or Sent Share, that can make it an easy way to do it without feeling like you're a crazy person. So my host this morning was like, I could never do all that posting. I said, well, let me tell you a little secret. I actually didn't post any of that myself. I use an outline for all my parties. She's like, you do? And I said, yeah, it makes me look really good, doesn't it? And she's like, yeah. So that can make a huge difference, okay? Makes your host think you're thinking of her in a party even when you're at home doing nothing. Okay, so right before the party, you want to keep in touch with your host. And the second most important job your host has after inviting people is reminding people. So if those are the only two things she does is invite people and do the reminders, that is what you need her to do. People do not RSVP. People do not commit to things. People do not write things in their calendar. This RSVPing and following up with everyone makes a huge, huge difference. So you can leave them a message, you can send a text, you can send a quick video, but I'll just tell my host, you about 24 to 48 hours before the party, you want to set aside some time to remind everyone. You want to remind all your yeses. Even if they told you they were coming, it makes a huge difference. So let them know they can bring a friend and get a free gift, and that you're super excited. You can't wait to see them, and it's going to be the best wine, cheese, and chocolate party ever. You want to do the same things with your maybes. The maybes will not come if you do not call them. But when you call them, about half to a third will show up. So let them know also they can bring a friend, and it just won't be the same if they can't make it. Sometimes the maybes are a little bit more likely to come if they know they can bring their mom, their sister, their neighbor, somebody like that. Okay? And then anyone you invited that you have not heard back from, especially if it surprises you. There's always somebody who you're like, man, I really thought they'd come. What happened to them? Call them. Follow up with them. There is a really good chance they completely forgot about it, or they never saw the invite. And the last thing you want to hear the day after your party is, oh my gosh, I would have come, but I forgot. And I actually tell my host those exact word choices because it makes them think, oh, I don't want to hear that the day after my party. And it really helps encourage them to get those RSVPs. And I can't tell you how many times somebody walks into a party like, oh, I'm glad she called. I almost didn't make it. Makes a huge difference. Okay. You also, I usually text the morning of, because the head count can change even the last 24 hours. In fact, it's pretty common. So Shirley today was like, a couple people backed out this morning. I'm like, it happens to every host. I'm like, so, think about that. That can be a little discouraging. And so you want to ask for the head count. I usually do that the morning of the party. And what I like to ask for is how many yeses and how many maybes do you have coming? Not how many people do you have coming. When I used to ask it that way, they always texted me back and said 12 to 15. Okay? And then I'd get there, and sometimes there were 6, sometimes there were 8, sometimes there was, whatever, never 12 to 15. And what I started to realize is we had coached to get to 12 to 15, so they just told me 12 to 15. But if I asked them how many yeses and how many maybes, they would actually count who was coming and get a more accurate number. Like I have 8 yeses and 3 maybes, and that's a lot more accurate. So that's helpful for everybody. and then tell her when you're arriving at her party and have the ingredients out and ready. I do text all my hosts a grocery shopping list. I use an Evernote link for that, but you can do it a lot of different ways, or just send her the link through your website if you'd like. And that would be another kind of mid contact of just getting them their grocery shopping list. Okay, when she has the ingredients out and ready for you, that saves you a lot of time in setting up so that you can chat with people when they're coming in instead of frantically making sure you're ready. And it just makes it easier. I've also started asking for the Wi-Fi password. So if that's something you think you would want or need to have handy, it's very helpful if it's already written down. Okay, have a system and keep it simple. Use the trackers.
Oh, on the other thing, I want to tell you something really funny.
Yeah.
On the last call, I loved what Susan Warshay, I think it is.
Yes.
Said that she tells everybody, the host, right before the party, oh my gosh, I just want to remind you about my party because my consultant just said you have to bring a banana. And she says she has them all bring a banana to the party. And then at the end, they vote on if it's the yellowest or the brownest or the longest stem or whatever, and she gives away a prize. But that excitement with the host makes them have to follow up and get a more definite number. So I really thought that was cute, a helpful way.
Yes. And I have heard like ugly spatula or like an ugliest wooden spoon. And it gives the host the reason to call because she doesn't want some friends doing it and others not. So it kind of forces her to. So very good tip.
Yeah.
You want your host coaching system to be simple and duplicatable. Pampered Chef has trackers on PC University. I wasn't able to find the one that I wanted to show you guys in time for this, but it's just a spreadsheet where you write each party for the month and use a checklist. That way you're not doing host call with number one with your first host and, text number two with the second and forgetting who does what. So use a system. I like to use folders, and that helps me stay on track. So I just have a folder for every host, and all my notes and information go in there. But I'm a little bit old-fashioned and more pen and paper. So if you want to use something more digital, that's fine. But whatever system you have, make sure you use it and you stick with it religiously. That's very important. Anytime you try a new system, stick with it for a few months or at least 8 to 10 parties. It may not feel like it's working the very first time, but it might just be that host or that show or that situation. So you want to use it more than once before you decide to switch it out for something else. Any questions or something you want to add, Angela? Host coaching begins as soon as you walk in. You want bookings right. You must understand that host coaching begins immediately upon walking into the house. So be set up and ready. Chat with your guests as they arrive. Be excited. Be personable. Compliment them and make small talk. So it might be like, how do you know your host? Where do you live? Where did you work today? What have you been doing? I do also like to ask, what's your favorite Pampered Chef product? Or how long has it been since you've been to a party? Or are you familiar with Pampered Chef? The reason I do that is because if I'm hearing a lot of like, oh, it's been 10 years or I've never been to a party before, I know I want to explain some products in a little more detail than if I'm hearing a lot of, I just went to a party last week. This is our third party this year. I've been to every, I don't miss a show. I go to a show every season. So it helps me gauge like how familiar with the products people are before we start the party. So be the master the art of small talk. Host coaching after the show. Your host coaching actually does not end when the show is over and you're cleaning up. This is a very important part. So at the end of the night, you want to go over the guest list with her. I ask her who were her yeses and who were her maybes that didn't make it. And I actually write them down. I make 2 copies, one on my folder that I take home, and I write the other one on the back of her hostess folder or somewhere in her hostess folder so she can keep it. So I also sit down with her and we scroll through Facebook. And a lot of times towards the beginning of the event, there's some comments from people who can't come, but they want to order. And so we jot them down too, because she may have forgotten about them. So you want to discuss where she is at for free. So you're already at $741, which gives you $140 free. But when you follow up with these people, I'm sure we'll get to 800 or 900, which is going to bump you up to $165 free or $190 free. So tell her where she is now and where she's going to get with a couple more orders. That makes a huge difference. Sometimes I'm able to make a list with hosts for 2 to 3 people to follow up with, but sometimes I can make a list of 10 to 12 people. And about 2 to 3 of those typically will order if they do the follow-up. So it makes a huge difference. So whether they're at $1,000 when I leave or $200 when I leave, or sometimes under 200, so we need more orders, doing this with them makes a big difference. The other thing you want to let them know is that they will not get the orders with only one reminder. It takes actually 3 to 5 reminders to get additional orders. The reason for that is we're all busy. And when they text their friend and say, oh my gosh, it was a fun party, but I'm so bummed you didn't make it. We really missed you. I'm closing my party on Tuesday night. Here's the link if you want to order. You don't know if your friend is at the grocery store or putting the kids to bed and she sees it and she thinks, yep, I need to do that. And then she gets home, puts the groceries away, makes dinner, and totally forgets. So 1 to 2 will not work. It takes 3 to 5. Makes a huge, huge difference. I like to close my parties very quickly. So I have found 48 hours or less is better than 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. In fact, my hostesses that take a whole week to close typically only get 1 to 2 more orders. My hostesses that close in 2 days typically get the majority of their follow-up list. And that's because there's a sense of urgency for everybody to get their orders in, and it makes a really big difference. Always describe this in orders, not in money. Always go up at least 2 levels. To tell her she needs another $125 sounds harder and less manageable than telling her she needs 3 to 5 more orders. Unspoken expectations work one. Anything you want to add to that, Angela, or experience with the show?
Nope.
So I had a host with Double Free, so it would have been, I guess, July. And I want to say she was at like $300. And we did this list, and it was a big list. It was only maybe 4 people at her party. And she hustled. She followed up. I saw her posted on Facebook. I know she texted people. Every time she got an order, I texted her like, you are doing awesome. We closed that party over $1,100. Okay? Makes a huge difference. The other thing I like to host coach my hostesses to do is I actually have them all place their orders on the website themselves. That way I don't have to be available when they're ready to place their orders. So I tell them how to do that before I leave their party and let them know it's going to be a lot more fun if you fill your cart right now while you're excited and you're thinking about it. You can actually let that stuff sit in there while we get these extra orders. And then when it's time to close your party, you just finish off your half-price things and add your payment. That way it's quick and easy for both of us. So if you like that option, you can start doing that right now. And if it's not for you, that's okay. So that was a lot of information.
I have one more tip for you.
Yes.
If you have a host that has gotten everything on their wish list for free already that they wanted, and they're having a rock star party, I've said before, oh my goodness, you are doing so good. You're not going to beat my best ever, are you? And she was a very competitive person. And so she was done shopping. She had everything she wanted for free. And she said, well, what's your best? I bet I can beat that. Next thing you know, she doubled my best party ever. So
I love it.
Just so you know, there's some competitive people out there.
Awesome tips. So, okay. And I know at the end of the last call, I told you guys I am tired of listening to myself talk, and now I've done this 2 times. So we're pampered and not perfect. But that was a lot of information. And I know Karen came on earlier and shared with her biggest thing was she just needs to talk to her host more. And if you are not doing that, that is key. And then she also said that she does a lot of virtual parties. And your host coaching stays very similar virtually as it does with the live shows. So I've actually been working a lot on my virtual shows over the last couple of months and keeping in touch with those hosts. I private message them every night with an update on how their party is and giving them tips. Hey, your party was doing really good today. There was lots of interaction. Keep it up. Hey, you got 2 more orders today. Who do you know that's not on Facebook that might still want to order? If it's been really quiet, I'll give them tips. Like, you might want to tag some more friends. They may not know how to do that. So keeping in touch with your host for the virtual parties is the same. Like Angela said, she does a host coaching call. But if you're not going to do a call, do a good video and send it to them. and stay in touch with them. You still want to make sure that your hosts are including a lot of people, even virtually. You want to make sure that they are getting orders from people who aren't on Facebook. I actually tell them to set a goal of getting at least 5 orders outside of Facebook as well. And then you still want to explain the host program, make sure they have a big wish list, that they know the benefits of getting bookings, because they're really going to be your booking agents. You will find that some people don't come out and say they want to book a party and they don't put it on your Google form list, but they tell the host, or the host knows that they have a big wish list. Okay? So that is pretty much all of our call. I think their homework slide is next. Any questions that I didn't answer or anything else? Angela, if you had to pick one thing that you would implement if you were new at this, what would be the one you would start doing?
Well, since we're in the director group of people that would like to be directors, if you do nothing else from this, make sure that you encourage high attendance, because the more people you're in front of, the more people that you can share your opportunity, the business opportunity with, and make sure that you explain the exclusive perk or the specific, or only this time, or only when you host can you get this kit credit, because those are things that you can't do back. You can't go backwards and redo those.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay. So homework, practice what you'll say in your host coaching. Make a 24-hour call with every host on your calendar. So what I would do is, for the bookings that I got today, is you can text them tomorrow and say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to have your party on whatever date. And let's go ahead and plan a time where you just have about 10 to 15 minutes to chat and plan that. Make 15 contacts a week outside of the party. So that's just ongoing homework every single week. Your power hour is about, and use the time wisely to work towards bookings and recruitings. And then this week's homework call is to make it impactful with Laura Anacall and Diana Feller. It's on Consultants Corner training and under the resources in the director bound. So I will post this on the event. I will post those YouTube videos. Just with a slight disclaimer, this is the first month I did it. And one of the things we're challenging our director bound group on our team is to face their fears and stretch themselves outside of their comfort zone. So I actually don't like to hear myself talk. I don't like to see myself on video. I don't like selfies. So these videos were a huge stretch for me. So they're not perfect. Please don't use them like, oh my gosh, they're perfect, because they're not. But I will go ahead and share. I have, I think, 1 or 2 for virtual and 2 or 3 for the cooking shows, so that you can at least see something. But then really take your time if you're going to use these videos, and I encourage you to still talk with your host on the phone, and then use these videos wisely. I know Jennifer Courtney, who is another one of the directors in this group, also does some videos, and hers are really good. So you may want to check some of those out, especially if you're on her team. And then you've got this. I believe in you, your director believes in you, your team believes in you, so go get it done this week. And whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. So thank you for joining in us, and I'm gonna stop the screen share and stop the recording.